Welcome, everybody, to week 4 of World War II Heroes in Literature Part 2. And thank you, Carson. In his prayer, he asked that we can contribute to the discussions to deepen the discussions. I think today is a perfect day for that. And I think you guys have already demonstrated the depth of thought in the modules that we had in our homeworks this week. I'm really impressed with the discussion questions, with the lessons that you're pulling from the story. And I think the the dialogue that you've had amongst yourselves in the online platform has been pretty fun to watch. So thank you for that. Thank you everybody for contributing. And I'm excited to talk about this book today and talk about Stefania or Fuchsia and her story, at least this part of it. We are maybe a third of the way through the book, maybe not quite a third, and there's more to come. We think that it's been exciting and there's been a lot going on so far. Um, there's more. So I don't know, put on your seatbelt. I don't know, maybe that's not the right term, but the book is exciting. I think if you are enjoying it, you will continue enjoying it. It's really a fun book. I'm excited to talk more about it. I'm going to share my screen um, and make a couple of adjustments on my side. All right, is my screen sharing? Excellent. Thank you for those thumbs up. All right, for today, it's going to be kind of following the same, mostly the same outline that we follow each week. We'll have some more introductions. The list is still rather large, and so if you have not yet introduced yourself, remember the 4 questions are your name. Well, I guess there's subparts to these questions. Your name, your age, where you're from, and where you're living, if those 2 things are different. Your favorite ice cream and your favorite hobbies. So if you have not yet introduced yourself, you'll have a chance to today. We'll probably have time for 7 or 8 more introductions. But if we can keep those rolling, that would be great. It's fun to get to know everybody and find out the things that you're interested and find out whether your favorite ice cream flavor is actually the best or not. So we'll talk about that. My discussion topic today, talking about Stefania's personality traits and if it's good or bad, and what we can learn from her. And then the lessons between the lines and the thoughtful discussion questions from what you guys have posted on the Mighty Networks app. We'll talk about some of those things and dive a little deeper into those lessons that we've learned or could learn from the story. Next week, we'll continue reading this book. We'll be in chapters 7 through 12, The Light in Hidden Places. And the supplemental content this week will be more about what was happening in Poland. So I'm using this story as sort of the bridge into the war. So I like to focus on individual stories, individual heroes, and their journey through all the things that are going on. But with this story in particular, I'm trying to give supplemental content that helps us understand what was happening in the war at that time. And so this supplemental content is about what the Poles or the Polish people were doing while the Germans were occupying Poland. And so we'll talk about some of the battles. It'll talk about the Warsaw Uprising that if you're in part 1, we studied a little bit as we read The Zookeeper's Wife. But it will talk a little bit more in depth of what the Poles were doing during this part of World War II. So as we go on Stefania's journey, we're going to pick up with the supplemental content, pick up the things that were happening around her in her country as she is doing all these cool things. And so that will be the supplemental content for this week. By way of announcements, office hours are tomorrow. If you are confused with anything, want to discuss any of these topics, if you are wanting to do the Supreme Commander track and you have not yet come up with your semester project, feel free to stop by the office hours. We can brainstorm um, some really cool ideas that a number of your classmates are starting to work on. Maybe I'll share next week, with their permission. I'll share some of the outlines of the projects that some of your classmates are working on, so you can see what cool things they're going to be working on outside of the class, as we build these stories, these projects, and as we move on in the course. That's it for the announcements today. If you want to stop by office hours, I'll be there. I'll just be on my computer. Follow this same Zoom link that you joined for class. You'll join and you'll meet me. I'll be there. If you don't come, then I'll just be sitting at my computer working on my patent law stuff. All right. So for introductions, I will stop sharing my screen here in just a second. Take a look. I have some of you in my Age of Discovery class, and some of you have introduced yourself there, but not yet here. So even though you've introduced yourself in my class, separate class, still need to do it here. If your name's one of these on the bullet list, you need to introduce yourself here still. And so remember, the questions are your name, your age, where you're from, and where you're living, if those things are different, your favorite flavor of ice cream, and your favorite hobby or hobbies. And then I might ask you a follow-up question or something based on your responses. So I'll stop sharing my screen. Raise your hand if you're on the list and you'd like to volunteer as tribute to introduce yourself. Or if not, I have the list here and I will just start calling on people that I see that are here. Anybody want to raise their hand? Break the ice. All right, Oliver, you're first. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Oliver. I'm 16. I'm from Texas, but I'm currently living in Florida. My favorite ice cream is Texas Starry Night. It's only made by a certain company that's like local to San Antonio, and it's pretty much cookies and cream with chocolate ice cream. And then my hobbies are training for triathlons and parkour.
Nice. And last time I asked more about the flavor of ice cream, and you already filled in those things from a grocery store called Heb or something like that, right?
Yeah, HEB.
HEB. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've always called that Heb. And he was telling us before class, he had a triathlon this last weekend, second in your age group, first in your family, right?
Yeah.
And that's the one that matters the most. The bragging rights at home. So in being the fastest triathlete in your family, do you get to sit at like the head of the table and have special privileges?
No, it's just bragging rights, really.
Okay. Maybe we
Yeah.
should change that, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to do dishes anymore because you're just
Yeah, no more chores.
no more chores if you're the fastest. That's cool. Good job and welcome to the class. Braden, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, y'all. My name is Braden Maxfield. I was born in Washington State, but I live in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky now. Um, my favorite ice cream, anything chocolate, quite frankly. And then I like to cook for a hobby.
Ooh. Do you have a favorite dish to cook?
Anything.
Anything. All right. Favorite. Well, then what's your favorite? What's a good question? Favorite, I want to say genre, but that's probably not the word. Favorite cuisine? Like, do you like French,
Yeah, that's the word. I
Mexican,
think so.
Southern?
Um, I like Southern cooking. That's good.
All right.
I like to eat what I make. That's the best part. So.
Nice. So do you smoke meat or anything like that? Not
I don't do a whole lot of meats. We don't eat a whole lot of meat here,
okay.
so
Very cool. Kentucky is really pretty. I've only been there a few times, but I love the rolling hills. all the horses that are out grazing. It's a beautiful place. Cool.
Yeah.
Welcome to class. Thanks, Braden.
Thank you.
All right. Any other volunteers before I start calling out names? All right. I'm looking to see, is Owen here? Owen has not introduced himself.
Hi guys, my name's Owen Benyon. I'm 14 years old. I've lived in Utah all my life, and my favorite flavor of ice cream is I have this New York style cheesecake one that I really like. That's a pretty good one. And my favorite hobby would probably be going outside or making and playing games.
Nice. Do you have a favorite game that you've made or your favorite game to play?
My favorite game to play, there's this World War II strategy game that I really like. It's called Memoir 44. I really like that game.
Cool. And what types of games do you make?
Strategy games and card games.
Cool. That's awesome. I think it's so fun to find a cool card game. It'd be nice to have a mind that can create those too. Like what's the grandpa? I don't even remember. There's a, never mind. Anyway, I admire people who can create games like that. I love playing them. I wish that I had the mind to create them too. So good job. Thank you. And welcome to the class, Owen. Kohei, Kohei looks like he's here. Maybe.
Yo,
Excellent.
I've like forgotten all the questions.
Name, age, where you're from, favorite ice cream, and hobbies.
My name is Kohei Bankhead. I've lived in Utah. Favorite ice cream, black vanilla.
And
My
then
favorite
hobbies.
hobby, airsoft.
Excellent. How often do you play airsoft?
Not as often during the summer because it's super hot, but a lot more often during the spring and fall.
Nice. Easier in the spring and fall because you can gear up and it doesn't sting as much. Oh, that's cool. Airsoft, I think airsoft is so fun until I get shot. And then it's not that fun for about 2 minutes, and then it's fun again. Just that initial sting. I don't love that. My son got into it, and we used to, when we were in Virginia, we lived on land, and so we would have airsoft battles almost daily, just playing capture the flag. Um, a lot of fun until you get shot. then it's not as much fun. That's cool. Thanks, Kohei. And welcome to the class. All right, time for one more. Any volunteers? Trying to call on somebody. Let's see. All right, Zach. Excellent. Thank you.
So my name is Zach Newman. I'm originally from Utah, so I live in Missouri right now. My favorite ice cream would be the raspberry cheesecake. And hobby is hobby next.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, hobby's next.
Okay. I also really like airsoft. Uh, I also like mountain biking, even though I'm in Missouri.
Not a lot of mountains in Missouri, right?
No, we have our property's kind of hilly, so I make some trails and jumps and stuff. It's pretty fun.
Cool. That's really cool. And you and your family were in what pageant were you in this last summer?
So the Nauvoo and British pageants.
Yeah. Okay. How was that?
It was so cool. It was a really good experience.
Cool. Do you recommend it to others in the class that enjoy that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. I think we're we're planning on putting in for it again next year.
Oh, cool.
Hmm.
Excellent. And when we were in France for part one of this, Zach's dad, I guess, doesn't usually have a beard, but was growing a beard, a nice beard for the pageant. That's pretty cool. I'm glad you had a good time. Thanks. And welcome to the class.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right. I'm going to start sharing my screen again. Thanks everybody who volunteered or answered the bell when I called on you. Let's see. Sharing my screen. Hopefully, there we go. All right, we're back. Okay. So that'll be something to look forward to next week. If your name's on the list, I'll keep calling on people. It's so fun to get to know everybody else in the class. Thank you again for those who introduced themselves today. All right, for my discussion question, just to start us off with today, what do you guys think of Stefania's personality? I mean, there's a lot about her personality that just really comes off the page as you're reading through it. Things that I thought were fun and interesting about her were when she went back into the city with her mom and they're eating and her mom's about ready to go home, and when the mom says it's time to go home, she just puts her foot down and says, "Nope, I'm staying here. This is where I belong." And her sister said, "Oh, I know the Diamonds. They they need a girl to help in their shop. She has a job. She can stay with me." And so it ends up all working out. I thought it was also interesting that she started to learn that if she smiled at boys in a certain way when they were buying chocolates, they would buy an extra chocolate and give it to her. And then as soon as they'd leave, she'd put the chocolate back, put the money in the register. And I thought that was the fun part of her personality. Also, I liked that when she went to the monthly shop owner meetings, the one time she was late, they called her name, or not her name, Mrs. Diamant's name, and she said, "Here." Everyone turned around and just like started to like applauded her for being this young entrepreneur that had this family shop and was doing so well. And that was what the city needed and what their community needed. And she just rolled with it. Instead of correcting people, they're like, "Yeah, let's do this. Let's just go along with it. All these people are coming to our shop the day after these meetings. Let's keep going." I thought that was interesting. Thought it was also interesting when the rich Polish family came and had done a background check on her, found out where she came from, and started telling her about their family and their wealth and sort of proposing marriage, kind of like the mother of this rich Polish family was talking about how she would fit in their family and how she should marry her son. And I just thought it was so interesting. I think she said she gave them more vinegar as the conversation went on and they weren't taking no. She gave them more vinegar. I thought that was interesting. Getting angry at the woman with the covered well, such that as they're walking away, that she hears a gunfire and a bullet whiz past her and hit the gentleman in front of her, eating less to save more money. What else stands out to you about her personality, or what other moments kind of show us her personality in the book? Finn, go ahead.
It seems like what with what she's doing, it seems like she's maybe a touch overconfident, and um and it seems like she's a little bit selfless because she's eating less to save money and all of that. But I don't know. I feel like her overconfidence could be a bit of a stumbling point for her, and
Yeah.
um
What's an example of her overconfidence? I agree with you. What's an example though?
well, it's really just um I've read ahead a ways, but in a little bit farther up in the book, she tries to do the same things that she's doing in this part of the book, and they don't really work that well. And I mean, it ends out okay, but it really could have ended up a lot worse.
Yeah. So a little bit overconfident, a little bit naive, not fully understanding the dangers that she's putting herself in, right? Just and that is the overconfidence. Whatever I'm going to do is going to be fine, just thinking that it'll all work out. Yeah. Thank you for that. Justice, go ahead.
What's another thing that stood out to me was when she brought food to I can't remember the name, but her friends in the ghetto, even though it was really dangerous, and she was able to help them and try her best to how she like didn't get caught. That's a thing that stood out to me.
Yeah. Her selfless attitude, right? And I think it's interesting, and maybe you do too, the author kind of repositions her every now and again so she sees the posters that says, if you help the Jews, the penalty is death. If you do this, the penalty is death. If you do that, the penalty is death. Like as she's in the act of helping. And one time she even hides behind a corner, and maybe I'm getting ahead too, hides behind a corner right under one of those posters. So as she's in the act of helping, she's sort of hiding right below one of the posters. And so I think it's interesting that, I mean, the author, and it must have been on her thoughts all the time, constantly too, but the author reminds us that these things she's doing are not just trivial things, that if she gets caught, it is his death. And so, yeah, it's such an important part of her personality of wanting to help the people she loves and putting herself at such risk. Excellent comment. Yeah, good job. Carson, go ahead.
I thought it was kind of cool that she would like start singing to herself when she was like doing mixing with items on the shelf, and then the boy would come in, and then she'd like kind of sing a song to like tell him to go away, get out of the doorway. It was like that's just a cool part of her personality, I would feel.
Yeah, I totally agree. She seems like a fun person to know. I think I think it's fun that she could tease a little bit, like give them a hard time, change the words that you better leave me alone and go to school. Yeah, cool. Thank you. Aria, go ahead.
Well, I read accidentally a little ahead, so I'm gonna really try to not say anything that wasn't in chapters 1 through 6. But I think that she has like a really extraordinary gift to really be able to see the potential and kind of what's inside somebody and not just, you know, make opinions on them based on like their outside, which is maybe why she turned down the proposal from the wealthy Polish family and why she continued helping the Jews even when, most people who had Jews as friends before the war were turning their backs on them. But she saw that they were humans too, and so she decided to help any way that she could.
Yeah, I want to follow up. How do you think she developed that?
Um, well, I don't. I think that, she had a lot of practice growing up with other people, like in the shop and with her really big family. But I'm not really sure how somebody develops that kind of gift.
Yeah. I mean, Aubrey, we'll get to your comment in a second, but what do you think? How could we see something like this gift in Stefania that we admire, that she can see through whatever it is and sees the heart of a person and sees them for who they are and loves them for it. Meanwhile, everyone else is just seeing the outside and judging, right? How does someone develop that gift or that skill? You can just unmute yourself and answer this one if you have an answer.
I think that like how we can develop something like that is maybe we just need practice. And like when we see somebody, like, because it's so hard not to just make like judgments in our heads, because that's kind of like an instinct is to do that. So we just kind of have to fight that and use a little maybe perspective, like, you know, like that maybe this person isn't like is somebody completely different than the person that I'm seeing.
I love that. I love that. And I think that, I mean, there may be other right answers, right? But that to me, that's what I think stands out to me. I think we grow up in environments that we're not in control of. The social media is always saying something in our ears. Television's saying something in our ears. Radio is always talking to us. Podcasts, YouTube videos, all sorts of things are like influencing our thoughts, right? And so I think it's interesting. I think so, and I like that you said that it's something that we practice, because we can sit back and sort of reanalyze the situation and think, okay, I just felt some sort of judgment. I don't think that's right. Why am I thinking that? And sort of get to the root cause of why am I thinking this, and then switching it. And so then I think eventually, after practicing it so much, we might not have to practice anymore. It might just be a part of us and who we are. But I think that was such an important part of Stefania's personality and a gift that she had that helped lots of people. We're going to learn about 13 people that she helped directly, and I guess her sister. But I think everyone she ran into, she probably had some influence over because of that, because of the love that she felt for them, despite their religion, their race, their age, whatever it was. That I think that they probably felt her love. I think that's something that we could all strive to be better at and develop that gift through practice. I think that's excellent. Thank you, Arya, and thank you for letting me put you on the spot like that. I appreciate that. All right, Aubrey, your hand was up. We'll get to you. Sorry about the long wait there.
That's good. One of the things I really liked is when it was like, I don't remember what chapter it was in, but when it was like, mentioning, I totally forgot the woman's name, but like the woman who like owns the shop or whatever, and how like she was lonely and like, Fuchsia just like brought like a light to her life, like without even realizing it. And it just like makes me wonder, like, what are some like ways I can like make myself like an unknown light, kind of.
Yeah. And what are some of the ways? I mean, as you've thought about it, what are some of the things that you can do or the rest of us can do to be that light for somebody?
I don't know, one of my favorite things is just like when someone smiles at me, like it's just like brings like such a joy in my day. And so it's like smiling at people, like just waving at people, saying hi. It's like when you see someone walking on the street, just be like, hey, how are you? It's like just all the small things.
Cool. That's awesome. And I think a smile goes a long way, and totally does. I think in my life, and this is not necessarily me, but following the example of my parents and my siblings. When I was growing up, there were grandmas in my church congregation whose kids all lived far away. And so we had one that Grandma Iverson, not my actual grandma, but I would go and mow her lawn once a week, or my brother would, or someone from my family would mow her lawn once a week. We'd often go and just chat with her on Sundays, probably once a month. It wasn't even that long, just maybe 20 minutes. And I think that was such a nice thing for her. And it was such a small thing for us to do. But I think it brought a lot of light, just like what Aubrey's saying, the light that Stefania brought to the Diamonds in her loneliness, Mrs. Diamond, in her loneliness to cheer her up and give her some hope, right? I think
Small
that's
things matter.
absolutely. Small things do matter in so many ways. Thank you. And I think that we can do that for people. I think that that is an awesome, awesome lesson to learn from this. And I think it's something that we can all probably be better at. Maybe you're doing awesome and we need to follow your example, but I think it's something that we could all try a little bit harder to be a little bit better at doing small things to help uplift other people and be that hidden or secret light for someone else. So I want to ask, sort of staying in the same thing, how did her personality help her in situations? And then how did it put her in danger? Some of you have already sort of alluded to some of these, but how did these things help her in the situation she was in? Mason, go ahead.
What I found out is she's a little stubborn or reckless, and like when she snuck into the ghetto to go see everyone, that's just such a reckless thing to do, and uh, that can really get her in a lot of trouble. But in some ways, it can be really good because like when she stayed here and she stayed with the Diomeds, and she was stubborn about that, she was able to make a lot of difference in that whole community.
So I guess the stubbornness helps, but it also puts her in danger as she's helping, right? But without that stubbornness, none of this would be happening, I think. Might just be going with the flow and not wanting to sticking her neck out, right? I think that's she's not if she weren't sticking her neck out, then she wouldn't be helping. We wouldn't be reading about her without that stubbornness. Yeah.
It'd be a pretty boring book.
Yeah. Right. Yep. Here's Stefania. She worked in the shop. And then the war's over. Like it would have been a boring book. You're right. All right, Braden, go ahead.
Well, you kind of mentioned it yourself when you said that that part where she's at the well and the person tries to shoot her. It's her stubbornness there that almost got her killed, or the guy in front of her. I mean, the only thing that saved her there was that woman's bad aim. So it was, I mean, her stubbornness really did put her in danger there.
Yeah. And it put someone else in danger and actually injured him.
Yeah, harmed them.
And I even maybe to add to the stubbornness, it was a little bit of a temper too, right? She could get mad and she didn't hold it back. And that helped her in some situations that really put her and others in danger in other situations. I thought it was interesting that the author refers back to that a few times with Mrs. Diamant, like, hey, shh, stop talking. Like you're gonna get us all in trouble if you keep going down this path. Please stop. I think, and they knew her and loved her, and I think we're trying to help protect her. That was great. Arya, go ahead.
I thought that the like when she was getting really mad at the woman with the covered well, and her temper ended up injuring another person. That was probably a big wake up call for her. Like, oh, I caused this. This was my fault, and this didn't have to happen if I hadn't gotten so angry. And I think she gets better throughout the book, like less reckless, still just as courageous and stubborn, but less reckless. Just I think a little more savvy.
That's a good word for it. Yeah, absolutely. Great comment. And so just to go next step, I mean, you see it on my slide here. This class is about World War II heroes. I think she's absolutely a hero. But I just wanted to ask, do heroes have to be perfect? Seems like in today's society, if someone's not perfect, they might just get canceled, right? The whole cancel culture. She had this temper. She said something to this woman at the well, and she got another person shot. So she's a bad person. I mean, I think some people rush to judgment a little bit too soon, but when we're talking about heroes, do our heroes have to be perfect in order to be someone that we want to emulate?
I mean, just the whole concept of being perfect is like you can try to be perfect all you want, but you're still going to make mistakes. Like, I mean, in my eyes, like some of you guys may think this differently, but um, they don't have to be perfect. They can still like, they can still be your hero and have some flaws.
Excellent. Yeah, I agree. And I think Stefania is a good example. So many things. I mean, it would be pretty, I don't know, naive's probably not the right word, but it would be short-sighted to look at her temper and say, "Oh, I can't be like her. She had a bad temper." Right? I think it's important, and this is nice to highlight, and it's something we'll probably come back to throughout this whole year as we talk about people who have heroic qualities. They're not all perfect, and no one's perfect, right? There was one person that was perfect. Um, and there and it's not these people that we're reading about in World War II. And so I think it's okay for us to view these people as heroes. It's okay to see their flaws and just sort of, yeah, she had a temper. She learned from it. She grows from it and see that growth and recognize it. But just take the good things from her personality, try and adopt them and implement them into our own lives. Yeah, Jocelyn, go ahead, and then Owen, and then we'll get after these two comments, we'll go to your discussion questions and things. Go ahead, Jocelyn.
I don't think someone even has to be like a decent, good person in order to be a hero. They just need to be willing to help to do the right thing when other people aren't.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a great part of the definition of a hero. Thank you. And I think that's something that we'll return to as we get um, later on into this semester or into the year. Cool, great job. Owen, go ahead.
Um, like World War II was really a dark part of history, and both sides of the war did terrible things. And we might not hear about the Allies doing terrible things, but they did things too. There's always two sides to a war, and neither side is perfect, and neither are the people that fought it. But the reason why we care about the heroes is because we see them pushing through, and even though they're not like to
Uh-oh, you cut out. I think you might be on mute now. I think to finish, Owen, maybe. Are you back? Maybe.
Oh, what?
You cut out at the end of your comment. All right, I think technical difficulties. I think where he is going is that even a lot of people in World War II were imperfect. A lot of people did things that were regrettable and weren't right on both sides of the war, or all sides of the war. I guess there's more than just two sides, but um, I think it's important for us to recognize that we can view these people as heroes. We can talk about them as heroes for the courageous things they did, the wonderful things they did to help others, even though they might be flawed themselves. I think important just to remind ourselves that we can be flawed. We are flawed. None of us are perfect. We're all just trying to work and improve ourselves and deal with the situations that we have. And I think it's important to take the good, right? Learn all of these awesome things from Stefania's personality. Take what we can and implement it into our own lives. Practice seeing others without judgment, loving them for who they are, no matter what. Things like that, I think, are so important for us to do, even if the person that we're pulling these things from is imperfect. It's important to still learn from them. Excellent. All right. So lessons between the lines. We've talked about a lot of these already. I thought it was interesting. I loved everybody's comments on this. And I say it on the next slide too. But shout out to everybody who furthered the discussion by responding to someone else's question or someone else's thought. I think that's such an important part of our course. So shout out to everybody. There are a lot of you that helped further those discussions in answering questions and things. What were other lessons? We've talked about a few of them already. What were some of the other lessons that you learned from as you read this story? Lessons between the lines, things that we can learn in our own life, implement in what we have going on. I'll read the third one on here. So I think this is important for us. It is interesting the difference it makes having at least one person with you. The level of fear, anxiety, chances of making irrational decisions are a lot higher. With someone, you're able to see things clearer, have more options to consider, and feel some portion of security, belonging, peace, and love, which is crucial for all human existence. So if it is important to have at least one person, what can we learn from that? How can we apply that lesson in our lives? How do you be that someone for somebody else? Lincoln, go ahead.
I like supporting them when something difficult is happening.
Yeah. Being there when they're having a hard time. Seeing that your friend needs her picture taken and wow, you work at a Photoshop, right? You can
Sorry,
just
could you
help
repeat
ease
the
the
question?
situation being there. Sorry, go ahead, Carson.
Could you repeat the question? I just like zoned out when you said it.
Yeah, the question is, so I read the third quote on here from someone on the Mighty Networks platform. It's interesting the difference it makes having at least one person with you. And so my question is, how do we be that one person? If it makes such a huge difference, made such a huge difference for her, Stefania, to have someone else there helping her out, just help lifting her up. And Lincoln said, being there for someone as they go through a hard time, being the shoulder they can cry on, person they can lean on for support, having their backs, just having that one person in your corner makes such a huge difference. I think when I was growing up, my father was always in sort of a leadership position in my congregation at church. He was a bishop, also a stake president. So if you're not familiar, the congregations of my church are called wards, and usually you have like a group of wards or a group of congregations that form a stake. Kind of interesting names. There's historic context for why we call them that, but he was always in this leadership. And I grew up in a really small farm town, and my neighborhood was sort of the privileged neighborhood. I didn't recognize it at the time. I did when I was older, looking back. But it was most of the people in my neighborhood had money. Um, and and so I was just saying something later on in life to my dad. To be in charge of a congregation in this must have been pretty easy. I don't remember the exact words I said. But I was just saying everyone had their needs met. They didn't need a lot of help in certain things. And he just said to me, he's like, "You're wrong." I could walk down the street, and he never said anything about issues people were going through, but he just said, you could walk down the street. Every single person in every house has something. Um, you don't always see what they're going through. You don't see their hardships, but everyone has had heartbreak. Everyone is having a hardship of some sort. And just it made me sort of open my eyes that there are so many people around us that are going through something that we don't see. And so to be that one friend, to be the person there that's lifting them up, helps so much with the fear and anxiety and those things. I think it's just good to have our eyes open so we can see who might need help, or listening to our conscience, listening to little voice, the little still small voice when we hear it, to go and call someone or make cookies for someone or to go clean up their yard, do something. Following those promptings, I think, are so beneficial in being that person for others. Arya, go ahead. You have hands up.
I think that ties kind of directly back to one of Stefania's personality traits, because she was that person to so many people. Like she she couldn't see all of their hardship and all of the hard things that they were going through. I mean, nobody can. But she saw what she could see, and she kind of saw past their physical appearance and made a lot of difference in their lives.
For sure. Do you think that that played a role in the reason that she needed someone? There was always someone there because she had been that person for others. Sort of, it's just as you're putting good out into the world, good will return to you. Do you think it follows that principle?
Definitely.
Totally agree. When I was going through my I have a degree in computer engineering, and when I first started that degree, I did not know how to code very well. I was I was a very poor computer programmer, uh, and I needed a lot of help from a couple of friends. And I learned that as I help them with their problems, things they run into, they're more likely to turn around and help me when I need help. I think when we are outgoing and helping other people, then that good will return to us when we need it. I think there are a number of, and thank you for pointing it out. She was that person for other people. And I think that because of that, when she was in need, others came to her rescue too. I think that is something that we'll all see in our lives. Excuse me. We'll all see in our lives as we do the same thing. Let's see. And then going with the thoughtful discussion questions, a lot of the questions this week revolved around what would you do in this situation? I think it's important for us to think about those things. What would we do? A lot of the responses were, well, if I had children, I think I'd probably protect my family and I wouldn't be as risky. If I did not have children, like Stefania, I think I would take more risks and be more helpful. And I think really, really important things to think about. And I appreciate the effort and the thoughtfulness that you guys put into your responses to advance that discussion. It's really cool. Fun to watch as the mentor and teacher of the class, seeing you guys pick up on those things and talk about them. Again, shout out to everyone who responded to those questions. I thought it was really cool that there are so many responses and had that dialogue going on. Just to close out the class for today, as we read the books, as we talk about these things, as we talk about them and as we read about them for the the rest of the semester, rest of the school year. I think it's just so important to try and relate these things to us, learn things, read between the lines, figure out what can I pull from this person that can make me a better person. How can I implement their example? How can I use their example in my life to be a better person, to make the world around me a brighter place? I think as we do that, as we apply these things to ourselves, we will find a lot more happiness and enjoyment and satisfaction from the lives we're living, and I think the people around us will be greatly benefited from it. I'm so grateful for all the stories, all these people that we're going to read about, and for the hard things that they went through so that we could see their story and be inspired and be better because of their example. As I mentioned earlier, next week we're going to read chapters 7 through 12 of The Light in Hidden Places. Just when you thought things were as exciting as they get, they step it up. The story does not end yet. We're about maybe not even a third of the way through. And so I think the story just continues to be exciting and interesting, and a lot of lessons to learn. So that's what we'll be doing. And again, as I mentioned, the supplemental content this week will be more about what was going on in the rest of Poland while Stefania was doing all of these things that we're reading about. And so we'll have a little bit more context of what's going on in the war and all around her as these things are happening. Might provide more context of to this story as well, a little better understanding of what's happening around. All right, that's it for this week. Thanks everybody for adding to the discussion. Thank you for the thoughts, for allowing us to talk about some of these deeper topics. I think it's really rewarding for me. I think that there's a lot we can pull from these stories, and I appreciate you digging in, thinking a little deeper, and sharing your thoughts as you do so. So keep up that good work. Have a great rest of your week. I'll post this week's homework later today. I'll post a recording of this class later today too, so you can watch it back if there's any parts you missed. All right, have a great week. We'll see you next time.